of human behavior. Our next trainer has a doctorate in clinical psychology.
Rocky, that's not how we rehearsed it. You didn't even schedule me right, and you can't introduce me. Take off. Thanks for coming by. See you a little later. First of all, this whole room is not set up conducive for learning or training. Dan, would you grab a chair back there for me? Need you to come right up here. Dennis, right here. Right in between these two gentlemen, right here. And Dan, right over here. Right in between Cindy and Merge. Excellent. Gail, right here next to Larry. That's going to be good. Judy, could you come over here? Just move over. Steve, right over here. Steve, right over here, Steve. Yeah, I want you to sit right in between here. And Steve, if you'd stand right about here for me. No, Steve, right here. No, Judy, right in between here. Steve, no, right up here. Right, stand right here. Okay. Right here isn't conducive to learning. Could you move over? Could you move over? Hi, how you doing? Is this Joanne? Joanne, are you here for training today? Did you come to learn anything? Okay. Can I give you this pen here? You see, putting the pen here is not a conducive way to take notes. And as I'm going over some training techniques, it's down here. And it's 4 other speakers who are great. And if you ask me to repeat something, it's going to take time away from them. So can you put your pen there? Would you move over a little bit, sir? Now, please. It's, the clock's running. A little bit further. A little bit further. That's good. Good. All right. Very good. All right. Now, is that professional behavior? No. Steve, you can have a seat. Thanks. We're going to talk about workplace violence prevention. All of the things that you just saw, a little bit overt, a little bit obtrusive, that's step 2 and 3 in workplace violence. Step 1 is very subtle. It's what I did with Joanne, asking her or telling her how to take notes. It's invading people's personal space. It's poor communication between coworkers. That's where it starts, where we miscommunicate, where we tell other people what to do and how to do it on a consistent basis. Workplace violence prevention is leadership in action. We must rely on leadership to take an active role in workplace violence prevention. How many of you right now in the room who are working at a company can tell me off the top of your head your workplace violence policy? Raise your hands. Ooh, I hear it already. Some of you are saying, we don't have one. Last year, we don't have one cost $11 million. How many of you can survive that lawsuit? Not many of us. Training point number 1 is a learning point. When you go back to work, your workplace violence policy must say, we have a zero tolerance policy towards workplace violence. Workplace violence includes subtle intimidation, harassment, invading of space, taking things from coworkers and other offices or people, stealing proprietary information, dumping work on them without authority, and everything that encompasses sexual harassment. That is a comprehensive workplace violence zero tolerance policy. And if you have the nice policy written in your policy manual that says, we may terminate you, that leaves it wide open. You know the company that advertises all the time, they use Snoopy as their icon. They had a problem a few years ago. What happened? Person like Ron over here got a little upset with one of the salespeople. So he punched him out. And the company said, we may terminate Ron. We're going to look into it. We're going to explore it. And Ron and the person he punched out got kept on the same team. So they brought me in and asked the question, why did sales go down 100%? Well, gee, what were people doing at work? They were pretty smart because they had ongoing commissions, so they were working for other companies while they were at that company until they built up enough commission where they could leave, because people are saying, you know what, if Ron can punch out Joe, he can punch me out, and the company might look into it. Now, let's ramp it back, because some of you are already thinking, oh, we don't have that level of violence at our company. It's not a problem. I don't need to bring Brian in. Well, where does it start? It starts with the subtleties, invading personal space. How do we invade personal space? Well, when we walk up and ask somebody who's doing a poor job, like, once again, I asked you to take, there you go. And you see just how Joanne reacted. It's like that. And, sir, you're sitting like this. That is not going to get it done. Get your pen in your hand right now. In fact, Sir, that was a subtle threat towards me. Closing your fists like that, I can have you suspended from this company. Okay, don't worry about me. We're going to take care of your behavior now. There you go. And so that's how it starts. Do this work for me. Finish this project. I need you to work on this. Also, where are the 3 legal places we can touch someone at work? Does anybody know? Did you know there's only 3 legal places we can touch someone at work without their permission? Where is it? Hand. We can shake hands without asking permission. Now, some of you are saying shoulder. Where on the shoulder? Very top. Not on the back, not giving somebody a rub or a pat. And then bottom of the elbow, because that became legal when we could guide blind people around the office. Now, if you're touching people without their permission in those other places, you're breaking the law. And what happens? Well, first step is we invade personal space. We use some insults. We're a little aggressive in our communication. The next process starts to evolve with this type of individual or groups of people at work through some negativity. They're the ones we all agree suck the lifeblood out of our teams or company, and they go unchecked. What happens? Now, usually the people that we go to, our supervisor, our manager, or human resources, if they're overwhelmed, I don't know how many of you multitask, you'll say something like, Bob, handle it on your own. That's just Carrie being Carrie. Be an individual and take care of it yourself. Oh, I just empowered Bob. And now Bob's thinking, gee, when I complain to human resources about someone who is intimidating me, they blow it off. They tell me it's my problem to solve. Workplace rights. Everyone in the room has the right to come to work without intimidation, harassment, insults, name-calling. Now, what's name-calling? Well, we all know the other terms that we use, but do you ever get called, you know what, you're really kind of a loser and slow. And sometimes when we take a project away from someone, we give it to another employee and say, you know what, Steve's sort of incompetent. Would you finish this for us, Carl? And we keep giving Carl more work. What's Carl's reward for high performance? More work. The person we took the project away, their reward is, well, they feel a little upset for a little while, but then they think, this is a pretty cool deal. I don't have to perform, and they keep paying me. So within workplace violence, it's communication. It's creating the motivational environment. It's focusing on empowerment, coaching, good supervision. It focuses on leadership top down and bottom up. And so when someone comes to you and says, so-and-so is doing this to me, I agree. First thing we might want to do is help them learn how to handle it on their own. But if they're coming to you and saying, I don't want to talk to Dennis, we have to pay attention to that. How come? And so maybe we'll have a three-way meeting. Now, what happens with workplace violence? It's a process that's ongoing for years. And what happens to us as individuals when we get away with something and nothing happens to us? Over time. Don't we do more, and we do more, and we do more, and it begins to escalate. How does it escalate? Well, more intimidation, more harassment, anger, unresolved conflict over a period of time. And then ultimately, human resources or a manager or supervisor or a new person wakes up and says, this is inappropriate behavior. And so I come up to Steve and I say, Steve, you need to stop doing this. And Steve, who has a good functioning brain and is very smart, has a problem. See, our brain has a lining in it. You can think of it as the brake lining in your car, impulse control. And the more and more we allow people to get away with poor performance, poor communication, anger, harassment, subtle insults, demeaning behavior, the more the brake lining erodes. So what happens? Steve can't put the brakes on now. He doesn't know how to stop. And so what do? We don't teach Steve to learn how to communicate better or teach Steve appropriate behaviors or re-educate him about our new policy. We tell Steve, if it happens again, you're going to be gone. Well, right now, in Steve's back of his neck, his medulla oblongata, a neuron just gets so excited and goes right to the front of the nose and says, do it again! Because he doesn't have any more impulse control and he wants to test to see if I was lying. And so I fire him. When's the time that I fire him? Friday afternoon. You will increase the chance 84% that Steve's coming back Monday. Very unhappy. Because Steve hasn't been telling anybody at home that he's not doing well or he keeps getting written up or that he's perceived as the workplace bully. Steve thinks everything's great. And when he gets fired, he has no tools or resources to help him or his family. So he's either going to come back and stalk the parking lot, threaten coworkers as they come in, show up again, send a little virus from his internet to ours, sell proprietary information that he's been subtly stealing for years, or worst case scenario, he comes back with a weapon. How much does it cost to write a new policy versus the cost of counseling for everybody who was intimidated and threatened or shot at? And what do we hear about Steve in the end on CNN? We hear from all his neighbors, he was quiet and unassuming. We never heard from Steve. Get to know your neighbors for many obvious reasons. But at work, what do we hear at work? I go to Bob and I say, Bob, what was it like to work with Steve? And Bob says he intimidated and harassed for 9 years. And no one paid attention until the new supervisor who was shot stepped up and said, don't do this anymore. Let's not even go there. Let's not even get it to that place. Let's learn together. Let me come into your company and help learn with your employees what's appropriate communication. Let me teach human resources. This is when you have to step in. Let's make leadership take an active, proactive, intrusive step in helping our whole organization learn appropriate communication, creating a motivational environment, defining roles, redefining expectations, and reducing and eliminating conflict that goes unchecked in our organization. Thank you for your time.